Charles set a Nevada Master State record on his first, looking to bump it up on the second attempt.
I'm making this video for all my homies and homettes who are reasonably new to powerlifting, strength training, and want to get a bigger bench and just don't know where to start or what to do. Get the hair going this morning. What do you guys think? If you get online right now and you watch 10 videos on how to bench press from 10 different content creators, you're going to get 10 different ways of doing things. And if you're new to benching, or you're perhaps struggling, stuck at a plateau, it can be really darn confusing to know, who do I listen to? What do I do? You guys got all these videos and all this different crap you guys do for all these different techniques. You got camber bar, slingshot, board press, you got overloads, floor presses, pin presses. What do I do? And then you got me telling my trainee to follow this simple progression program where I've got him doing a few working sets and some accessory sets once a week. And, it's confusing. He's got all these guys saying, oh, you need to max out every week. Or, you got to add, some guys say they bench 3 times a week. So I talk to guys that bench 5 times a week. How do you decipher it? He wants to add all this stuff. He doesn't think that the program that I've written for him is going to work. It's working perfectly fine for squats and deadlifts, and his bench is stalled, and he just can't seem to figure out, well, if I do the same thing I'm doing for the other 2 lifts, maybe it'll work for this one. And I'll be honest with you, I was the same way. When Bobby first started training me, he cut my volume down severely, and he had me just follow the simple undulating periodization where I did 3 warm-up sets, 3 working sets, and the rep ranges, the percentages of my 1 rep max changed every week, so we kind of rotated between like 5s, triples, and singles. But it was really basically just 3 warm-up sets, 3 working sets, and then some accessories. And that was it. In my mind, I thought I had to be doing more. My bench is not going to progress unless I do more. Except for I was stuck at a plateau for almost a year. For almost a year, I could not put another 5 pounds on my bench. And no matter what I did, no matter how much volume I added, I just could not put any weight on the bar, and it was maddening. I couldn't figure it out. And then to confuse the situation even more, I do these 1-minute short videos where I show I'm doing things like slingshot benching and board benching and camber bar benching and overloads and deficits and all this stuff. And he's like, well, why do you do all this crap, or why am I not doing it? What's the difference? For simplification, I'm going to separate lifters into 2 categories. I know there's more, but we're just going to keep it simple and just say there's 2. There's advanced lifters who are close to their natural potential, guys that are lifting what their body's capable of lifting. And we'll say there's newer lifters who have not even come close to their natural potential and have a ton of room for growth. I would put Sean in the beginning category. Not that he's a novice lifter, not that he's not putting up a significant amount of weight. He's benching more than his body weight, so he's an intermediate to advanced lifter in that regard. But he's new to strength training, so he's got a lot of potential that is still on the table. I, on the other hand, I'm 49. I've been benching 10 years, and I'm at the point where I have to get tricky to put another 5 pounds on the bar. It's tough for me. Now, there's a lot of guys that are telling him that he needs to do linear progression, which is max out every week. And the reason I disagree with that is real simple. Your body adapts to the weight you press. So if you get strong enough to, let's say, bench 400 pounds, and that's all you do every week is you max out 400 pounds, it's going to be very, very difficult to get more weight on the bar in a reasonable amount of time. It's not an efficient way because you are already lifting your maximum amount, but you're not creating enough stress to cause an adaptation. Your body is adapted to lift that heavy weight, 405 pounds. Well, how do you get it to lift more? You have to increase the stress. Something has to increase the reps, the weight. And you can't put any more weight on there because you're already maxed out. So here you are every week maxing your most. And you're not going to, how are you going to gain that way? you're going to be able to consistently bench press 405 pounds for the rest of your life, and it will be an eternity before that weight goes up. I've seen it a million times. There is a reason why linear progression only works up to a certain point, and then you have to start getting creative. You have to introduce accommodating resistance. You have to do something. You got to get tricky. You got to figure out how to increase the force through the rep ranges. You got to increase the range of motion. You got to do things like tempo, speed, adding bands, adding chains, doing speed reps, doing deficits, doing, whatever, fill in the blank. All the tricks that we do to try to accommodate resistance through the curve in order to create an adaptation so we can put more weight on. But for most people, most guys that are, still have a lot of potential left, all you really got to do is stay in the rep ranges and increase that every week. It's a linear progression with undulating periodization. Basically, you're just rotating the rep ranges and trying to increase the amount of weight you do for those sets every month. So I got them on a program. It's real simple. Week 1 is basically sets of 5 by 5. Week 2 is basically sets of 3 by 3. Week 3 is basically heavy singles. With every single one of those weeks, you take one set to failure. That's the program. That's real simple. And it's a linear progression with undulating periodization. That's the rotation of the rep ranges. 5, 3, 1. Wendler. Bam. Undulating periodization. You never have to max out. As a matter of fact, maxing out is the least efficient way to get your 1 rep max up once you've hit your plateau. Once you got those newbie gains are gone, linear progression will not net you anything of significance. It's just the most inefficient way to train. And there is a mountain of science to back this up. Peer-reviewed, published, well-studied, well-documented. Training programs are hit and miss. A lot of us just don't know what we're doing. There's so many variables. It's hard to nail down real good scientific data. So, even like guys like Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell, a lot of the stuff that he was doing was experimental. He would study programs that other countries used for their lifting programs, and he would take things that he saw that was successful in other programs and he integrated into his, and over time he honed it down to a system that worked very well. And it was a lot of accommodating resistance and periodization, basically. But to say that he had scientific data that was backing up all of his stuff, no. It was a lot of bro science. There was a ton of that going on in that gym. And it was a program that was honed and evolved over decades. And it works. It produced some really, really successful lifters. But the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of training programs, and a lot of us, we're all just doing our best guesses, and we're riding on the greatness of other people that came before us. I always said, there's a million different programs you could pick. Pick one and stick with it. And that's what I'm trying to get him to do, is just stick with the damn program at least long enough to see if it's going to work or not. And that's the best thing you can do. If you're new to lifting, pick a program, stick with it. Now, I would hardly call myself a bench press specialist. I think I'm overall very strong, but I was benching over 405 pounds last year this time, and before I blew my shoulder out, and I was doing that regularly. I think I got up to 420 was my top. And then after I blew my shoulder out, I managed to rehab and get myself back to the strength level I was at before. And I'm right around 405 pounds right now. I've done that 3 or 4 times on the football bar. I haven't done it on the regular barbell yet, but regardless, I'm right back to where I was before. So in that regards, I think I have a pretty successful program, and it's worked very well. And on top of that, it's helped to navigate a lot of the injuries. And, that's one of the big things I'm trying to avoid is, we're working men. We're guys that have to support families, and we got to go to work every day, and we don't live in the gym, and, we're just not training all the time. So it's also a matter of efficiency. That's something else I try to keep in mind. Bottom line is, you got to trust the program. if you are not happy with the program you're doing, don't jump around. Find something you think is going to work for you. Try it and do it long enough to get good data. That's usually 4 to 6 weeks. Then you can kind of start seeing if it's going to do something for you or not. And then at the end of that 4 to 6 weeks, then you can start looking at changing things up. The last thing you want to do is start writing your own program and adding and subtracting in the middle of it before you even have sufficient data to see if it's working for you or not. And that's the big takeaway. The big takeaway is there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Pick something, stick with it, make adjustments after you have good data. If this has been helpful to you guys, throw me a subscription, throw me a like, or if you have comments. This is a highly debated topic, and I'm totally open to any suggestions or differences of opinions you guys might have. So hit me up in the comments. Love you guys. See you at Worlds in 8 days.